in huge chunks that unfunded liability, the chances that we would get a higher credit rating increase. And that means that future borrowing, the interest rate on future borrowing would be reduced. So that is something, as council considers our need for future borrowing, that's a big thing to consider, is how much will that borrowing cost us? And the last item that I could come up with as a pro is the potential to get out from under this huge debt sooner. The cons, because there are risks to this, is the money is no longer in the city's control. So right now, the PERS reserve, if we got into troubled times, council and the URA board could choose to make use of those funds. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could choose that. And the second is the potential for PERS to lose money. So in the previous slide, you saw that negative year where PERS dipped greatly. That was the freeze, the recession. And so you could see that there is that potential. I don't know what sort of odds there are of having that huge of a recession again, but it is possible. So I wanted to make sure that we communicated that. Again, rounding out these slides is, should we choose to create that side account, the timeline for that action would look like this. You would hold a public hearing, consider that, and if you approved it, then tomorrow I would contact the actuarial and I would submit our side account information for the full 2.8 million, and they would start to do the actuarial analysis. As we would, Milliman would invoice us for that amount. Within 3 days prior to the payment, we would notify PERS we are going to make the deposit, and then we get the payment date. Our deposit would probably occur on January 1st because they only allow the deposits to begin to be the first of each month. But immediately, the next day, we would begin to get a rate reduction of 2.9%. I have recommendations for what we would do with that savings as well, but that's probably something that we would save for like a May-June discussion so that we could determine the full value of that and then bring it to council and the URA board. So with that, I entertain your questions. We do still have the public hearing on the city side. But again, what we're talking about really is that funding gap of 733,000. That is, we're recommending a transfer from savings in prior year or savings in the current year due to vacancies and also the use of contingencies. And it varies by fund, and that exhibit that's in your city staff report identifies where the money would be coming from for each fund. And with that, I entertain your questions.
Sandra, I might just add a few kind of closing comments onto it. I want to just highlight, good job, by the way, in your presentation. A couple things is that Sandra said that I just want to highlight is, which has to do with the city's projecting operating costs over time versus our property tax revenue under Oregon's property tax revenue scheme. I never want to miss the opportunity to reinforce that one of the primary challenges Woodburn is going to face is growing growing our levels of service consistent with the projected levels of growth that we see coming down the road. What we've seen in the past several years is that as growth occurs and our property tax revenues increase, they get swallowed up in operating costs with our existing levels of services. And so planning for the addition of public safety programming, parks and recreations, and the things that people want to consume as we grow, are going to be a real challenge for us to maintain. The other point is, as a strategy towards that end, trying to address our PERS costs and make a maximum contribution per the first side account that we're establishing, I think says a lot about sort of the conservative approach the Budget Committee and the City Council has had, not only this council but prior councils, that have allowed us to, over time, fund this as an option and a strategy to employ. So I think that says that we're pretty responsible with the resources that we have. that we can look into the budget in the next county council meeting and via cost savings and other means find a way to close that $733,000 gap so we can make a contribution that will have a payback to the city services and programming over time is really smart. And I think a lot of communities our size would be envious that we can actually afford to make this kind of a move at this time. So I want to point those things out and say you should feel good about this because it's a strategy and it's a contribution that I think will position Woodburn well and help over time.
Any questions for Sandra?
Actually, more of a question for Scott. So we're talking about savings, money that we've saved and not spent over the past several years.
That's right.
Not so much cutting programs. It's not like we're saying, okay, we're going to cut back on the library or we're going to cut back on parks. This is money that we've been able to set aside and in anticipation of maybe having this opportunity.
Well, we have done these things over time. When you look at that graph and you see in 2008 when the recession hit, we certainly were in a position of reducing services and reductions of positions, but that's not what we're proposing tonight. These savings have rolled up from vacancies, from being able to set money aside in anticipation of trying to address this particular issue. So we're not, and actually we're still in the URA meeting, but we're trying to cover this here so we can move quickly, so people in the audience don't have to sit through this twice. I know you probably all want to, but we're trying to save you from that. But no, we're not proposing any reductions tonight. We actually, the analysis in the next supplemental budget, you can look and see that where we're proposing to make this maximize this contribution from other budget items, that money is there without reductions or impacts in services.
I just really wanted to reinforce that for anybody that was in the audience or listening at home. I think we've done a really good job of preparing for this.
It's also the fulfillment of the city council's goal that you've adopted to actually move forward with this in this current fiscal year. So we're pretty happy about that too.
Questions, comments?
I have a question for Sandra. The 25% match, does that have a termination date?
Yes, it does. So the program is available through August 31st. Is that right, 2020?
For this application, it expires August 31st, 2020, but the program is through July 1st, 2042. So we expect to have future cycles for the Employer Incentive Fund, and those will be funded by sports betting revenues.
Very good, thank you.
And I should also add that this creation of a side account is not, we're not limited to just one. So if we had future savings, we could create additional side accounts, and each of those side accounts that we created would also be eligible for the 25% match. So that's something for us to consider as future savings is realized in any of our funds.
Other comments, questions?
I just have a
Sure.
comment. Sandra, I thought your presentation was excellent, very easy to follow, and the foresight that the staff has put forth in realizing this gap was there, and now we have, something that we can use, and I think this side account is the way to go.
Okay, I'll just add to those comments. Thank you for having the long-term interest of Woodburnonians decades from now, and thanks to the state for giving us this option. And it sounds like we're first in line, so appreciate that. Okay, so for the Urban Renewal Agency, we're entertaining a motion to adopt this particular resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve a supplemental budget for the creation of a PERS side account.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Right, this is a time for public comment just about the Urban Renewal Agency. I see there's a lot of people for public comment today, but hearing none, do we need to move for adjournment?
I move we adjourn.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned from the City of Woodburn Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Next up is the city council meeting that we're going to launch into, because we're going to take a break to honor one of Woodburn's finest already. So we'll jump into this meeting, then we'll take a little break after that. So I would like to call to order the City of Woodburn City Council meeting of November 12th, 2019. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance Okay, please have a roll call.
Counselor Cornwell,
Present.
Counselor Cabrales,
Here.
Counselor Carney,
Here.
Counselor Ellsworth,
Here.
Counselor Schaub,
Here.
Counselor Morris,
I'm here.
Mayor Swenson.
Here. Okay, we're going to move right into some quick announcements. City Hall will be closed November 28th and 29th for the Thanksgiving holiday. The library will be closed November 28th, but open from 10 to 2 on Friday, November 29th. The Aquatic Center will be also closed November 28th, but open from 7 to 6 on Friday, where you can come and work off your Thanksgiving dinner. The transit services will be closed on November 28th, but will be open normal business hours on Friday, November 29th. The City Council meeting scheduled for November 25th, 2019 is canceled. The next City Council meeting will take place on December 9th, 2019 at 7 p.m. So next we'll have our favorite activity is the Woodburn Police Department swearing-in ceremony. So Chief Ferris.
Mayor and councilors, staff, family, friends, we're here tonight to swear in one of our newest police officers. We're very excited to bring on Preston Newman to the Woodburn Police Department. I think everybody can hear me without a microphone. That should be okay, I think. Preston, would you like to introduce your fan club that you brought with you?
Sure, yes. This is my mom, Pam, my little sister, Hannah, my dad, Alan, my girlfriend, Lindsay, and my older sister, Tiffany.
Welcome.
Thank you, welcome. You're here to see Preston take the oath of office. Preston comes to us after a pretty rigorous selection process. We went through a recruitment, put applicants through a written examination, a number of written exercises, oral interviews, psychological examination, extensive background investigation, and a medical examination, and a drug screen. And Preston came out at the top of the list, and we're really glad to bring him on board. For the last few years, Preston's been working as a resident assistant or a director of resident assistants at a few universities, Northern Arizona, I believe, Portland State University. He's a 2013 graduate of Newburgh High School. He went on to Corbin and received a bachelor's degree from Corbin, and then went on to Portland State and received a master's degree in educational leadership. So we're super excited to have somebody of Preston's caliber. But really how he stood out was his character, his integrity, all of his references, all the background that we dug into pretty deep, all spoke very positively of him, reflecting the values of our city and our police department. So to that end, I'd like to invite Preston up and we'll administer the oath of office. So Preston, if you'd raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Preston Newman,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Oregon,
the laws and ordinances of the city of Woodburn,
the laws and ordinances of the city of Woodburn,
and the rules and regulations of the Woodburn Police Department,
and the rules and regulations of the Woodburn Police Department,
and that I will,
and that I will,
well and faithfully,
well and faithfully,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
of the office of police officer
of the office of police officer
to which I've been appointed
to which I've been appointed,
in and for the city of Woodburn Police Department,
in and for the city of Woodburn Police Department,
according to law
according to law,
and to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. So we have a little tradition of presenting Preston with his badge, and then we're going to let Preston invite someone special in his life up to pin the badge to the uniform. So we're going to take a quick picture. We're giving him his badge.
Tommy who?
Did you practice? So to that end, one final thought before I turn it back over to the mayor, and this is really to Preston's family and friends. We appreciate you trusting your son to us. That's a big deal, especially in policing today, but I can give you these guarantees. Within our police department, within our city administrator, our mayor, our city council, all of our city staff, it really takes a village, and they give us great support within the police department to provide good services within our city, actually excellent services. And our commitment to you is this, that we'll give your boy the best leadership, the best equipment, the best training, the best policies and procedures that we can afford to give. And we'll take very good care of him. In turn, we ask you to take good care of him as well, because he's embarking on a journey. I've been in this journey 42 years, and I'm proud to say that I wouldn't have changed a thing. And I'm glad to be where I ended up. And my goal is for him to, well, he doesn't work that long, but to have a similar career path and enjoy every day of it. Come home to his family and to his friends each and every day. And thank you for trusting us. Appreciate that. But look out for him as well, just like we will. Thank you.
On behalf of the city and the city council, we can assure you that what Chief Ferrer said is true. He and our police department have our full faith in the way that they run the entire police department, and they will be faithful to that commitment, so. And we're sorry that you've already signed a 42-year contract. We'll have our lawyers look at that. I don't know if that was going beyond there, but thank you. So as is customary when we have this, we're going to take just a 10-minute break. We will invite you to some pie and some drinks, and we will reconvene about 7:35.
I'm not gonna go.
Okay, well, I can take it.
I know.
So you have to. Thank you. Hello. Gotta remind people to, like, when you speak, like, lean in.